Kill boy.
So today is the, theoretically, touch wood, last day of casting for wave 1. I've got a couple more to do of each mold, and since I haven't shown you before, I thought I would show you roto casting. I've talked about it in a few other videos, but I've never actually remembered to film it. So basically what's going to happen, as you saw, I poured out the amounts of part A and part B of the resin material that I needed. I added some color to the part B, which is the clear. The thing about this is you have to put quite a lot of the color in to make it quite dark, because the resin sets white, so that white is kind of always going to be fighting whatever color you put in it. So if you want it to be pink, you got to put in quite a dark pink, etc. So I've got two halves of the mold, I've got rubber bands ready to go. It's quite time sensitive because once I mix part A and part B together, I have about maximum 2 minutes to get it stirred, get it in the mold, get the mold closed, get it rubber banded up, and then start roto casting it. Roto casting is basically a way to use less resin in creating your object, because instead of filling this mold completely and having a solid block of plastic with roto casting, I can fill it about halfway, and then I rotate the mold around on 3 different axes, and then it coats the outside of the mold, basically leaving you with a hollow mold rather than a solid block of plastic. So that's what I'm going to do. So basically I've got to put these things together, get it in the mold, get the mold closed, and then I rotate it. So let's give it a go. So roto casting is a little bit more of a lengthy and tedious process, but I think it gives you a really good result, and it is really cost effective on resin. That means you're not using twice as much materials to make the same amount of things. And when you're making as many as I've been making, you want to be as cost and material effective as you can. Now, in an ideal world, I'd have a machine that does this, and there are ones that exist. It's basically called a roto casting machine, which is basically a wooden frame that you put this in, and you have a little crank handle, or sometimes they're motorized, and it spins your mold around on all the different axes. So basically it's going this way, it's going this way, and it's going this way, because you want to make sure that the liquid is going into all the corners of that mold. Wherever the bottom of the mold is, that's where the resin is pooling. And as the resin starts to dry, it'll start to coat nice and evenly all throughout your mold. Now I've also got, see, the cup of resin here as my control, so I can keep an eye on that. I can see that when that starts to set and starts to harden, I don't need to keep doing this as much. It's been a couple of minutes and I can see inside my control cup that had the excess resin from the pour in it, that this is completely solid, it's not liquid, it's not tacky anymore, which means whatever's in here is going to be the same. So I give it usually an extra minute or 2, or sometimes 3, just to be safe, and then I can put it aside and just give it about 10 minutes before we demold. So it's been well and truly enough time that I can demold Alvin now, so we can take a look and see how he turned out. As you can see, these the wooden boards on either side are to, when you wrap the rubber bands around, the wooden boards help keep even pressure on all sides of the mold so it doesn't warp it and you end up with a warped figure inside. The silicone obviously can move and warp a lot more. I also labeled these so that I always know which is the top of Alvin. Make sure I can do this so you can see. Looking pretty good. Don't have to be too careful, but you want to make sure you get it all out in one piece, and then you have our Alvin.
Kill boy.